Did you know that lifestyle can actually bring you way more results than therapy in so many cases? Hi, my name is Natalie Pelto, and I am the co-founder of Blue Life RX, and I am here to help families get their kids, not just get their kids, but help their children alleviate severe autism symptoms so that they can live the life of their dreams. And by default, we will actually enjoy and benefit from the gifts that they have within them that many are not able to access due to not being nonverbal or non-communicative. So now saying that, today's talk I know is a little controversial, and this is for you if you are new to your autism diagnosis or you have never considered using lifestyle as an approach to autism, and specifically lifestyle medicine. If you don't know what lifestyle medicine is, it is a evidence-based practice that physicians can be board certified in, where the focus is to treat or prevent certain illnesses from taking effect. And it started off where lifestyle medicine was talked about in a way that only supported heart disease. And then it started to branch off into, of course, all chronic illnesses such as metabolic disease and diabetes. But as we started to explore more over the years, we are seeing that this is now like the entire, like, how do I say that? When you look on their website of the ACLM, which is the American College of Lifestyle Medicine, we now see that it is an umbrella that covers so many other illnesses as well, which include mental health diseases, psychiatric diseases, and many of the ones and autoimmune diseases. So we are now looking at a completely big shift in our mainstream healthcare to using more holistic practices that are a food first approach based on evidence pulled from the different places in the world where families were living, or not families, but individuals were living way past the centenarian age and that were still living in vitality. And so these are known as the blue zones. There are pockets in the world where this happens. And one of the reasons that this is so powerful and the story is so powerful is success leaves clues. And when we look at our children, they are currently living almost at the opposite end of the spectrum of what these centenarians are doing. And interestingly enough, my own story with my son, who at 3 years old was completely non-speaking, actually going into 6 years old, he was just starting to find his words. At 5 years old, he was non-speaking still. And at 5.5, his voice started to come. And it was very intentionally. It did not come from therapy. That therapy was not working for us. And what we saw over a span of 2.5 years was a child who was non-communicative, was always sick with infections, was constantly lining things up, was very rigid and obsessive with certain toys, had pica with his hair, which was like eating non-food objects. And he was really struggling in every way. He could not answer to his name. He had not one single word at that time. So we went from that, and in 2.5 years of implementing lifestyle medicine without actually knowing this is what we were doing, I was taking a lifestyle approach, yes, that was very new and unique in this world. Actually, it may have been the first time that lifestyle medicine was brought into the autism treatment without knowing it. And for us, it was completely life-changing. My son at 7.5 years old was released from all care without the need of a diagnosis and is currently thriving at 15 years old in a mainstream high school, has a ton of friends, 3 different groups, is able to lead D&D campaigns, is absolutely thriving in his academics, and is also very physically active. And this is a child who broke his elbow because he had no spatial recognition, and was a sensory seeker, to being able to help others, and educate and teach and volunteer at badminton nights and basketball and play all of these sports that require a lot of spatial recognition. So if you are someone or a family who is seeing these things in your child, you are in the right place. That is what I'm trying to tell you with this. So let me share a little bit about lifestyle medicine and what it can do for your child. And nutrition plays a key role for everyone. You may have heard that you are what you eat, but we don't really ever take that seriously. It truly means that every bite you take is either hurting you or helping you. And if we look at the statistics for our kids, if they're eating roughly now for a neurodivergent child or a child diagnosed as autistic or with autism, I'm not into labels. You pick the one that aligns the most with you, and I will not judge that in any way. I think it's important for us to start to bridge that gap. If you have a child who has been diagnosed and they are eating 90% processed foods, and we know that nutrition is absolutely detrimental to our survival, then we know that these kids are struggling. I would like to offer you a little bit of a challenging thought that might help you, is that if processed food didn't exist, do you believe that your child, would be having these issues? If you really think about what it does to the body. And I want you to reflect a little bit on that, because just challenging our current belief systems that food has nothing to do with autism, and it's not even our current belief system anymore, but the belief system that 10 years ago many of us were literally brought into. I spoke to many physicians who have talked to me about, food and nutrition not having any impact in autism, and yet today I get to go and explore grand rounds with physicians and see a completely different attitude and a complete openness to understand that we now know that neurodevelopmental needs are based in nutrient content, and nutrients comes from food. It's not going to come from a vitamin. And our children are so depleted with the world today that we do need to help them with this. So I get to go and speak with physicians, in front of physicians, and again in professional settings to educate on this process now. So having said that, I think it's really important for us to move forward and to stop the thought that food has nothing to do with autism. It absolutely has everything to do with, number one, how picky your child is, how sensory they are, and many of their underlying symptoms that have been coined as autism byproducts are actually not true, such as poor gut health, such as pica, such as nonverbal or non-speaking, such as eloping. All of these things are because of lack of awareness due to brain fog and due to lack of neurotransmitters being able to process messaging. This is entirely due to nutrition, because our brain and just some of our messaging requires upwards to 20 different nutrients per one message. So with that being said, I'm going to dive into a couple of other areas that are going to support your child. So number one, nutrition obviously is a huge one. The pillars of lifestyle medicine encompass 6 pillars, not just one, where the nutrition is a big one. And it tends to be the area that families would like to start with first. But there are 5 other pillars, and one of them is called movement. And in a sedentary lifestyle that we live in, we are absolutely needing our children to move forward. I don't know how many messages I see or get that say my child is on devices for upwards to 9 hours a day. Your child is not able to actually build muscle tone. They're not going to be able to overcome their dopamine fixes if they are sitting sedentary for such long periods of time. They're not building parts of their brain either. So we know now that gross motor skills that children learn at very young ages are what build out an entire part of the brain. So knowing this, movement is extremely crucial, and how much a child should move per day is pretty high. Usually it's between, depending on 0 to 3, I believe it is upwards to 180 minutes per day. I believe after that, it is 60 minutes per day until they are 18. And then as adults, we have the most sedentary lifestyle, which is between 150 minutes to 75 minutes of vigorous activity per week. So having this knowledge is also helpful. The next pillar that I always like to talk about is risky substances. This is also known as toxicity in our world. And we are very ignorant to, and I just, as a society, not you, not me, I was in the same boat. But we as a society, we're very ignorant to the amount of chemicals that have been created in the last little bit. In the 1970s to now, we have created well over 80,000 chemicals, and many of those were never tested on for human safety, not through our skin, not through if we were breathing them in, and of course, the things that we're ingesting through plastics. I think the newest study shows that the average cadaver that they're opening up has about a tablespoon or a teaspoon of microplastics. Don't quote me on the tablespoon, it might be a teaspoon, of microplastics per adult, which is absolutely horrifying. This is not substances that are meant to be in our brains, which means that we are at an all-time high of Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and different conditions that are brain related. So we do need to be taking into consideration all of the different toxins that we've created. That is just one area. So those are 2 of our pillars: risky substances, or 3 of our pillars: nutrition, and of course our the movement pillar. And the last three I will talk about very quickly for time's sake, but we have our connection pillar. Our children do need to be provided. I don't know how many memes I see where children or parents are like, we're, you know, that we have an autism child when it's easier to stay in than to go out. It is so important for our children to have interactions. Longevity and growth and development is linked to the connections that we make with our peers, whether it's one person that you see every 2 weeks, or intentional sibling environments where you're, you know, playing and connecting. These are, even if your child is nonverbal. I know it's hard. We did this very actively, so I do understand. The next thing that I do want to share is the resilience pillar. For us, when we have a program called the Blue Life Autism Program, if you want to know more about that, there is a link below to join our next live event where I literally teach exactly what I'm teaching now, but over a span of 2 hours on how to implement. And you can learn all about our program there. Of course, make sure to RSVP there. Now, next though is our resilience pillar. And the reason that I wanted to bring this one up is because for families where we see they've got their nutrition on point, they've got all of the other pillars are balanced. Usually it is because we lack the knowledge that our children co-regulate with us as adults. And that means that how we feel, they mirror. And for a lot of behavior children who are focused on aggression or meltdowns, and we know that meltdowns and tantrums are very, very different. Oftentimes it has created a PTSD in parents and moms where they're almost like reliving Groundhog Day. And it has been described to me in this way where it's like the adaptability is lacking from our children with the spectrum because we are so focused on creating routine. I want to challenge that because it's a completely different part of the brain than memory. And so when we're living in Groundhog Day, as we'll call it, we do not get out of fight or flight very easily. And fight or flight for us means fight or flight for our children. It means they're less acceptant of food. They're going to be more behavior. There's going to be more behaviors, and they're going to struggle with the other pillars just by default. So resilience is a huge pillar, often ignored. And so I'm bringing it to attention here that is one of the lifestyle medicine pillars. And lastly, we have sleep. And we know that our children on the spectrum, for the most part, 54% of them are not sleeping well, whether it's that they're not falling asleep, whether it's that they're waking at 3 o'clock, and these usually have underlying issues. This is not an autism problem. This is a health problem. And so understanding that the circadian rhythm needs to be supported, and that is just one piece of it. And then of course, if there are things that are deregulating the body within, we need to look at that too, from heavy metals to parasites to overburdened liver. All of these things need to be taken into account, but can support your child. And so now you know what lifestyle medicine is. And I think that having this education is so important. So what can parents do today? So here are 3 tips that I want to share that parents can take right now to move forward in their journey with autism, especially if you're new. Is number 1, focus on the place that most people do, which is nutrition, and focus on incorporating a whole foods diet. Really important that we go back into the foods that we have and were given to us on this earth. The more that we can separate from modern living foods, the more you will see your child wake up into the world around you. You can always consult with a nutritionist. I myself am a certified nutritionist specialized in brain development, so feel free to look at our program again. And then you want to make sure that your child is experiencing their dietary needs. This is where like life changes, their brain wakes up, it's getting what it needs, awareness builds. And that is especially if you have a non-speaking child, the area you want to be looking at. Environment. The next thing, tip number 2 is use natural cleaning products. Consider water and air purifying systems. We have new data that has shown, and I've actually been privileged to see mainstream physicians like internists from hospitals posting about when they were talking about climate change, posting about the impact of pollution and air pollution on our children on the spectrum. And that is because our children actually breathe faster than adults. They actually are getting more toxicity than we are. Lastly, professional guidance. Tip number 3, find your person. And it's not going to be likely in the healthcare setting just yet, even though soon it will be. Hopefully, that is the goal of what I am doing in my mission, is to help our neurodevelopmental teams have better tools to help these children thrive. The goal is not to change your child. The goal is not to not accept who they are. The goal is for them to thrive in a world that they could be thriving in. It's giving them the best that they deserve. And your child deserves the very best. And we benefit from them living their best life. And we get to experience their unique gifts. And these unique gifts, are not available to anyone else. And so we miss out when our children are not living a life that they are thriving in. Okay, so exploring lifestyle medicine basically offers a beacon of hope to families. Just remember that every individual is unique, and that what works for one is potentially not going to be the thing that is missing for the other. So staying informed, being in helpful and growing groups of individuals who are moving in the same direction that you want to for your child. They say, success leaves clues. Be in rooms with people, be in rooms with people that are succeeding in this endeavor. And there are hundreds to thousands of us now. Back in the day, it was a very lonely road. But now that has changed, and I am so happy about it. If you found this video helpful or that you learned something, please make sure to follow, subscribe, and share it with someone who you may know who is struggling. And we will see you next time.